Hey, thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi as we get into some details here about your Colorado weather forecast, and specifically a couple of kind of big things to take away. It's going to stay dry and warm, but we do have an increased threat for some fire weather danger coming up for our day tomorrow with some gusty winds and some pretty warm temperatures, especially north and east of Denver. But for today, a little bit cooler than yesterday. You're probably feeling just a touch cooler out there today with those temperatures. Right now in the 50s for us across the metro area. Pretty nice temperatures overall, and a fair bit in the way of some kind of mid-level cloud cover in a few spots, mainly on up into the mountains. But for the most part, things looking A-OK, not only here along the Front Range, but up by Rocky Mountain National Park and the Alpine Visitor Center. Lots of sunshine up there, and still a little bit, top right-hand side of your screen, of some leftover snow up into that vicinity. And we'll see some of that here as it's just going to be, again, another warmer day for us ahead. But again, for most of us, it's just going to be dry and sunny and fairly comfortable out there. So that dry, mild weather continues, but we do have fire danger for tomorrow. And this mild and dry stretch continues probably through all of next week here, folks. Starting to get a little worried about the fact that it's been dry now for about 10, 11 days, and we don't have any rain in store for the next week, if not more than that. I don't see anything until the weekend of the 23rd, 24th, and that's so far out, it's hard to count on that at this point. Fire weather watch up for tomorrow. We'll see some gusts up to 35 miles an hour, some fairly dry conditions, mainly north and east of Denver, including Fort Collins, Burlington on north. We do have a limited threats for some fire danger for our day tomorrow here along the immediate urban corridor as well. Here's a kind of closer look and something just kind of developed here at 9 News to perhaps give us a better idea and maybe to better communicate with the Marshall Fire in mind about the difference between an urban grass fire, which is very, very different from mountain fires, for example. So this is a different way to look at it. And in Fort Collins in particular, that's where it's going to be a bit windier for our day tomorrow. So any fire that starts in northern and eastern Colorado will have the potential to spread rather quickly, but we will, on the good news side of things, reduce that fire threat for Saturday. Closer look in at some of those winds tomorrow afternoon. Again, in some cases, we'll see those gusts on up in 35 to 40 mile an hour range, mainly north and east of Denver. Notice how Fort Collins really a bit windier than Denver. That's why that fire threat is going to be a bit higher up that way. So obviously tomorrow, a bad idea to have any sort of, not a good idea to have any sort of outdoor fire or spark. So not a good example, for example, bonfire evening or anything like that tomorrow, because again, it will be blustery and it will also be on the dry side for our day tomorrow. Right now, hard to find a cloud statewide here in our beautiful state of Colorado. A few clouds may be developing in southern Colorado later on today, and otherwise we're not expecting much in the way of any sort of cloud cover over the next little while, and it's hard to find any sort of rain chances, meaningful rain chances for the next 7 days for most of the state. Temperatures, a lot of 50s and 60s for us statewide, a little cooler as you might expect into the mountains, 40s and 50s at this point. For today, temperatures rise on up into the mid 60s. Nice fall weather. Again, it's just continuing to be sunny and dry and warm and fairly comfortable as well. Those temperatures mainly in the 60s in the eastern plains, 50s, 60s on up into the mountains, and the warm spot would be out along the western slope where we'll be in the low to mid 70s in places like Rangeley and Grand Junction. Otherwise, again, 50s, 60s statewide. That's actually very typical for this time of year. Our average high for today, 67. So when we're talking about those highs, 66, again, we're right where we should be for this time of year. Lows tonight, 20s and 30s on up into the mountains, 30s, 40s along the eastern plains, so a tick warmer tomorrow morning compared to today. So I know we did have some patchy frost north and east of Denver. We do have that potential as we get later on for tomorrow as well, but probably a slightly lower threat for tomorrow compared to today. So worth noting that we will be looking at, again, maybe in a few spots, some patchy frost north and east of Denver. Now for tomorrow, temperatures about 10 degrees warmer than today's with highs in the mid 70s for us. Lots of sunshine. It will be on the mild side out there as well. Those highs in some cases could get near 80 degrees depending on how strong those downslope winds kick in for tomorrow, but it does look like we'll be on the warm side for us along the metro area. This again about 10 degrees above what we would expect for the middle part of the month of October. And in the mountains, more 50s, 60s in store. A few higher elevations, maybe a bit cooler than that as usual. 7-day forecast, we do have the chance for a weak mountain shower on your Saturday. 1 or 2 could develop. I wouldn't be too optimistic about that, and any rain we do see would be very limited at best. Sunday, a bit of cloud cover. We've got a system off to our south, maybe for our friends in southwestern Colorado into the San Juans. We could get some rain showers first Sunday and maybe even into Monday, but along the Front Range for most of the state, it stays dry for the next 7 days. And also one thing to note, as well as our temperature, so far this winter season, we have not dropped below 35 here in Denver. Our average first freeze, which means our average first temperature at 32 or below, is not until October the 7th. And it's on October the 7th. Right now it's October the 13th, of course, about a week after. So we're normally by now talking about our first freeze of the season. Last year, we had our first freeze on the state, but it doesn't look like we got any sort of freeze concerns. Looking at the 7-day forecast once again, we're not going to get anywhere close to, it doesn't look like 32 degrees anytime over the next 7 days. So again, get those sprinklers blown out. Trust me, it will get down to 32, well below 32 at some point this winter season, but we're just not there yet. And it doesn't look like we'll be there probably anytime over the next 10 days. I will say the following weekend, there's some hints that we do change the weather pattern up a little bit. So probably a good idea over the next week or so to get those sprinklers blown out and that taken care of, and those kind of winter weather preparedness things done here over the next 7 to 8 days, as things will stay on the dry and warm side for the foreseeable future. But again, for now, I will say I'm starting to get a little worried about the fact that we're going to go probably here 2+ consecutive weeks with no measurable rainfall for basically the entire Front Range. It's starting to get a little long, and that could lead to increased drought conditions for much of the state, including the metro area. Meteorologist Keely Chalmers will have an update for you coming up at 9 News at noon. Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabins in at 4 and 5, and then Meteorologist Danielle Grant in at 6, 9, and 10 tonight on the 9 News family of networks. Once again, I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Enjoy the nice fall weather, and we'll, of course, keep you posted on the latest with the drought. Again, have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.